This map confirms it. We must go.
But where? It's so far.
To the mountains. We'll find help.
The wind moved low across the dry Wyoming plains, whispering through the brittle grass like a secret that had waited too long to be told. And Caleb Mercer stood beside the fence he'd built with his own hands 20 years ago, staring at the mountains that had never once answered his prayers. Not when his wife died. Not when his best friend Thomas disappeared without a word. And certainly not now, as a small figure stumbled down the dirt road toward his ranch. Her boots too big, her coat too thin, and her sobs carried ahead of her like broken glass. Caleb squinted, his weathered eyes narrowing beneath the brim of his hat as the girl approached, clutching something tightly in her trembling fist, her blonde hair tangled and dirty, her cheeks streaked with tears and dust. And when she reached the gate, she collapsed against it, gasping, "Are you Caleb Mercer?" Her voice barely stronger than the wind, and Caleb's heart tightened for reasons he couldn't explain. Because there was something familiar in her eyes, something that stirred memories he had buried deep, beneath years of loneliness and regret, and he nodded slowly, his voice rough as gravel when he said, "That's me." And the girl let out a broken cry as she held up an old, folded letter. The paper yellowed and creased, her small fingers shaking so badly it looked like she might drop it. And she whispered, "This letter, it was hidden in Papa's boot." Her voice cracking as she added, "He said if anything happened to him, I should bring it to you." And Caleb felt the world shift beneath his feet, his breath catching as he took the letter, recognizing the worn handwriting instantly, because it was Thomas's handwriting, the same bold, stubborn strokes he'd seen 1,000 times before, back when they were young and foolish and believed nothing could break them, and Caleb's hands trembled as he unfolded it, his vision blurring not from age, but from the sudden flood of memories he wasn't ready to face. Memories of promises made beside campfires, of laughter shared under endless skies, and of the day Thomas vanished without saying goodbye, leaving Caleb with nothing but silence and questions. And as Caleb stared at the letter, the girl looked up at him with desperate hope, her voice small and fragile when she asked, "You knew my papa, didn't you?" And Caleb swallowed hard, his throat tight as he nodded, unable to trust himself to speak, because in that moment, he realized this girl wasn't just a stranger on his land. She was a piece of the past he'd never stopped mourning. And as the wind howled across the plains, Caleb understood that whatever was written in that letter had the power to reopen wounds he'd spent half his life trying to survive. And before he could stop himself, he placed a gentle hand on the girl's shoulder and said, "Come inside, child. You shouldn't be out here alone." And as they walked toward the ranch house, neither of them knew that the words on that fragile paper would change both their lives forever. And if this moment touches your heart, remember to subscribe to the channel, because stories like this remind us that even the deepest pain can lead us back to something we thought was lost forever. The ranch house creaked softly as Caleb pushed the door open, the familiar scent of wood, leather, and time wrapping around him like an old coat. And the girl hesitated at the threshold, her wide eyes scanning the room, as if she wasn't sure she was allowed to exist in a place that felt safe. And Caleb motioned her inside, his voice quieter now, gentler than it had been in years, as he said, "Sit down. You must be exhausted." And she obeyed silently, clutching the edge of the chair like it might disappear beneath her, while Caleb stood by the window, staring at the letter in his hands, his heart pounding like a man facing judgment. And slowly he began to read, Thomas's words cutting deeper with every line. "Caleb, if you're reading this, it means I failed to make it back. I never stopped looking for a way to return, but I was ashamed. Ashamed because I lied to you. The ranch was never lost in a gamble. I sold my share to pay for my daughter's life. She was sick and I had no other choice. I didn't tell you because I knew you would have given up everything for me, and I couldn't let you lose your dream too. If she finds you, please, don't let her grow up alone the way we did. She deserves better than the life I gave her. She deserves you." Caleb's vision blurred as the words sank in, the weight of Thomas's sacrifice crashing into him like a storm. And his hand shook as he lowered the letter, his chest aching with a grief that had never truly left. And he looked at the girl, really looked at her, seeing Thomas in her eyes, in her stubborn chin, in the quiet strength she carried despite everything she'd endured. And she whispered, "Papa said you were the best man he ever knew." And Caleb felt something inside him break completely, because he had spent years believing Thomas abandoned him, when in truth Thomas had been protecting him all along. And Caleb knelt in front of her, his voice thick with emotion as he said, "Your papa, he was my brother." And the girl's lip trembled as she asked, Is he gone?" And Caleb nodded slowly, his heart breaking all over again as she fell into his arms, sobbing with the kind of pain no child should ever know, and Caleb held her tightly, making a silent promise to the man he'd loved like family, a promise that this child would never be alone again, that she would have a home, a future, and someone who would fight for her no matter what. And as the sun dipped below the mountains, casting golden light across the ranch, Caleb realized that the letter hadn't just brought grief. It had brought purpose, it had brought redemption, and it had brought back the family he thought he'd lost forever. And sometimes the things hidden in the darkest places lead us back to the light. And if this story moved you, if you believe in loyalty, love, and second chances, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Because every story here carries a piece of truth that reminds us we're never as alone as we think.